and welcome to the Inside Britball podcast. My name's Andy Taylor and I'm joined by Stuart and Isaac. As always, we're going to bring you a small episode today to look through the results that happened this weekend and the results that are going to happen over the next week in the world of BUCS. We've just had an amazing conversation with Tonye, and if you, depending on how these go out, either go back and listen to it or we'll look forward to it, depending on the order in which these are released. But really looking forward to hearing your feedback on that episode for sure. But really short and sweet this episode, talking about what happened in the world of BUCS. So guys, let's get straight into it. Let's start off with that National League National Championship competition that only has 2 rounds, and we know that we're going to have a three-peat of the fixture that we all love to see, which is UWE versus Nottingham Gold. And Isaac, probably the least surprising thing this season, unless you counted Durham as a bit more of a dark horse at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, we saw that from Durham that they have the ability to beat Nottingham Gold. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it this time and make it, a bit of a different final, or similar to last season, but the exact same as last season anyways. But no, I think the results went exactly the way that I think we all thought they would do. Nottingham Gold just proving they're a bit too strong for the Durham Saints, and in their own words, putting wrongs right.
And it's brilliant. And Stuart, we saw a closer fixture with the Durham and Nottingham Gold, and we wondered whether there would be an upset there, but that didn't happen in the end, and we saw a relatively similar result within the UWE Bullets Loughborough, didn't we?
We did. We were wondering how close that Gold Saints game was going to be, and it seems like they Gold sort of found their offense this week, and also sort of stifled the Durham offense as well at the same time, which is always a good recipe for success. I think the one thing that the Loughborough squad will be sort of pinning their cap on and celebrating is the fact that they managed to put up points against UWE. There's not many teams other than sort of Gold in the first game that can say, and certainly the last few years as well, can say that they've scored against the Bullets. So I think, Loughborough, they certainly celebrated their end of season photographs afterwards as well. So, you have to take the little wins in games like this, and I think that's their little win. But yeah, I think we're going to see a heck of a national final on Tuesday, aren't we?
Yeah, Isaac, just to get your thoughts on that, are you expecting more of the same in this third round where someone's going to end up finishing the season 2-1, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's starting. We've seen it all season long, well, from week one, that this, I think, was always going to happen. They're certainly the 2 strongest sides in the Prem National this year, and I think the 2 games prior lead, have this showcase game, quite. I don't know how to say it. I'm excited for it. It's going to be one that, I think we've all been expecting, one that we all really want. It's one game. Nothing else that's happened this season really matters. It's just the 2 best sides go against each other.
There's nothing to hide now either, is there? Everybody they know each other well now. They faced each other twice, and they've managed to meet themselves again, and it's just unload the playbook, and it's going to be a fantastic game, isn't it? On Tuesday, Touchdown Tuesday, which if you watch the Tonye episode, you'll see how we workshop that live with him on the podcast. But no, BUCS Big Wednesday on Tuesday is when you'll be able to catch that, and it's the evening kickoff for that one. So let's move swiftly onto the other Premier tier. So the National Vars competition, which concluded with the Warwick Wolves and SGS Pride in the final, which will take place before the National Championship on Tuesday. Warwick Wolves hosted the Portsmouth Destroyers, and they won 2013, a relatively close affair. And there was another relatively close game in Bristol as well, where SGS Pride came out 28-17 winners over the Leeds Griffins. Following our conversation with Bo Scholes, nearly said Stewart, last week, Stuart, there was we probably could have predicted these 2 results, but certainly closer than either team would have experienced in the season gone past. And Warwick and SGS have just steamrolled from week 1 into the final on Tuesday.
Yeah, I was excited by that Warwick-Portsmouth clash, having covered Warwick previously in the season. We thought that was going to be the sort of the intriguing one. Obviously, Coach Bo came on last week and was looking forward to the trip. And was hoping that they were sort of competitive. She knew the strength that SGS were going to bring, and it looks like they were just that little bit too strong for Leeds. Leeds obviously put up a hell of an effort against Exeter in the previous round, and I've got no doubts put up a heck of an effort against SGS. And I know that I've probably been their biggest critic this year and constantly said that they're not the SGS of old. And as they've gone on throughout the season, they've kind of proved me a little bit more wrong each week, and I'm sure that when I turn up to Big Wednesday on Tuesday, a few of them will be sort of looking at me in the media pen, shall we say, going, okay, let's see if we can prove him wrong once more, and go for it, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Isaac, on that final, we're probably expecting a real tight one, aren't we? Because Warwick have shown that they came out of the box stumbling in week one against a really potent offense in Leeds, which, as Coach Bo told us, that they've got senior players that have been around each other for a while, and then they come up against this SGS team who really are steamrolling through this season, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I think it leads up to another great final, much like the national championship one. It seems as if like it was always SGS were always going to be here. Everyone knows who they are in in the British American football landscape, but Warwick I think has shocked a few people this year. But they know how to win in tough games. You look at it in the season, that win against Nottingham Trent, where it's 7-6. They know how to grind out a victory when their offense isn't maybe working as well as it should be. And we've seen all season long where they can just steamroll teams. But all you need to do is look back at the semi-final. Yeah, their offense wasn't as potent as what it has been all season, but their defense is as strong as ever. So I think it's something that SGS need to really, they need to shut them down as quick as they can, because I think the Wolves could actually pose a massive threat to them.
Yeah, it'll be a cracking prelude to the national championship final, and well, we're probably going to see that about every single final, because all that Tuesday is just going to be incredible, these matches, and we'll get onto the national trophy in a second. But certainly two very the top two seeds, so the number one seeds in their respective sides, aren't they? Is that right with both Warwick and SGS, and certainly in the national championship for sure as well? Hard luck for the visiting teams there, but sets up a really juicy final there on next Tuesday. So let's have a little look now at the national trophy, which we had, which concluded with the Southern bracket final, or the semi-final officially, and then obviously the Northern bracket final, which sets up the Southern champs. And my gosh, what a result in this Southern bracket! We didn't know which way this would go. I don't think, if memory serves, we didn't. We claimed that it would be close. We weren't sure whether Brunel had met the opposition that they needed to meet to get themselves ready for the steam train that is Bournemouth, and it was clearly a case of the immovable object and the unstoppable force. And Isaac, we ended up with a 13-6 win for Brunel over Bournemouth, and they go, I think I saw them say that they go back-to-back finals, is my understanding, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
I wouldn't know I would not know that stat, but no, congratulations.
This is the South. This is the South. It's not Isaac's forte.
really isn't. Like, Bournemouth is just it's basically France, really. But no, I think it's something that we've seen all season, where these two teams know how to score and know how to defend, and it's come to this last game now, and they've just been able to prove it. Congratulations to Brunel to being the only London side in the Prem, as they made it clear on Instagram. But no, that game shows what the two teams were all about, really. Just tough, hard-working sides just going against each other.
Yeah, and Stuart, Bournemouth conceded more points in this game than they had all season. I suppose that might be where they tripped up. There was that they hadn't conceded this much, but I think probably they're going to be most surprised that they weren't able to put up points, which they've been able to do all season.
Yeah, I think that's probably what will be their most disappointing point, is the fact that their offense hasn't produced in this game. I think it was always going to be one of two games, wasn't it? It was always going to be that sort of 30-30 something game, or, as we saw, this sort of low scoring affair. And as a lot of coaches laugh and joke that defenses wins championships, I think it might have proven that for the Southern Championship, at least, Brunel's defense came out to play and held this potent Bournemouth offense to just 6 points, which is a phenomenal effort and kind of bestows them of the chance to go and play in the trophy final.
Yeah, totally. And congratulations to them, and commiserations to Bournemouth for just missing out on that opportunity to play next Tuesday. But they will be facing the Brunel Burners. They'll be facing the Northumbria Mustangs, who we had questions over Edinburgh, didn't we? We wondered, they hadn't faced anybody other than the Scottish team all year. We wondered, would that be a negative thing for them, or were they just so good that they were going to run through Northumbria as well? But as it turns out, Northumbria were really too strong for the Edinburgh Napier Knights, even though they travelled up that way. And Stuart, it's probably the least surprising, or at least shocking anyway, isn't it? I think we couldn't put their we wouldn't have. You'd probably got 50-50 split if you polled everybody who you would choose to win that game, I would have thought. And I think that showed in our polls that we got earlier in the week as well, didn't it? But a 32-13 win for the Mustangs over Edinburgh Napier is convincing nonetheless, right?
Yeah, it shows that Northumbria have a really strong offence. And again, I think the trophy final is going to show which side of the ball is better than the other team's other side, if that makes sense. I know there's three sides of the football, and all you special teams coaches that are shouting at me on the screen going, don't forget the special teams play. Yeah, okay. Kickoffs and field goals are important as well. And those that's 6 points for Brunel could have been, the 6 points for Bournemouth could have been 2 field goals. Who knows? But for me, the difference in score kind of surprises me with this one. Edinburgh Napier messaged us. We've been told off previously for just calling them Edinburgh. Edinburgh Napier messaged us and sort of gave us a bit of a lowdown on the game, and they said that Northumbria have a heck of an offensive line unit, and their quarterback, who we knew was a talent. And I think, when you put a good QB behind a good O-line, if you don't have a D-line to apply the pass rush, it's going to be a long day for you. It's going to be a long day for your defensive backs. So yeah, I think that's probably what paid dividends for Northumbria this weekend, was they were sort of able to dominate in the trenches, which automatically wins you football matches, I think.
Yeah, and Isaac, presumably you agree with that, because I was looking at our poll results. We had 22% chose Napier, 25% chose Northumbria, 26% chose Bournemouth, and 27% chose Brunel. So, we weren't wrong in not being able to predict who was going to win these games, because nobody could.
No, it's exactly going back to what Stu just spoke about. Northumbria are a tough team to come against. Coaching against them twice last year was awful. There, coaching a D-line against an offensive line who's just that strong. It was very tough, and the talent they've got all around the field is just, I've witnessed it firsthand. And being a side that have won the Northern Championship in Tier 2 and now Tier 1 as well, it shows what the coaching staff has been able to do there. That they've been a coach a winning culture and seeing it thrive through both tiers.
And two very worthy teams that, if they can keep their program together, then they'll definitely deserve a spot in that Premiership tier where they will be next year for sure, won't they? Because that's the joy of winning these southern and northern finals, is that you secure your place in the Prem. So congratulations to Northumbria Mustangs and the Brunel Burners, who secure that, along with a trip to Loughborough on Tuesday. So that's what's happened this weekend. This is what's happening the coming weekend. So we have a flip in this fixture in the Northern Conference Cup. York are now hosting Sheffield Sabres, so we see a rematch from earlier in the season, and we now have the Edge Hill Vikings travelling to Derby Braves. So Isaac, what's your expectation for the Northern Conference Cup this week, who will then book themselves a final place in a couple of weeks' time?
Yeah, I mean, if we start with the Sheffield game, it's a game we've seen twice already this season, and Sheffield come out on top both times. They have been that dominant force in the Northeast, and I expect more of the same here. Like Northumbria, they're a well-coached side. They know how to win, and I don't expect anything less from them in this game. And then on the flip side, you may say that Derby look like the favourites, but Edgehill have, they've played one more game. They've got that extra bit of experience. They're coming in on momentum. They've not had weeks and weeks of rest. It's a big factor into it. And I've spoken to an Edgehill player in recent weeks, and they're feeling quite confident about it, that they've beaten Lincoln, and now they're going to take it to the Braves and really see what they can do.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? That's probably the one that's got the most questions, because we obviously have seen 2 dominant wins by Sheffield over York. So although the cliche is that it's difficult to beat someone 3 times, actually, it would be probably the biggest shock of this cup, wouldn't it, if York come out on top here? But they're in the game nonetheless. But what's your reading of this, Stuart? Because we've now got this interconference clash between Derby, who are obviously unbeaten and have been very dominant in their division, against Edgehill, who have deservedly come out on top, but have had to suffer some forfeits along the way, and had to reshuffle their season throughout.
Yeah, I think it comes down to Edgehill's defense that could be sort of the deciding factor in this. They played in potentially, and I think the teams might get back at me a little bit, a potentially weaker conference in the Northwest too, whereas Derby were sort of tested by the likes of Lincoln and Cambridge at sort of the top of the Midlands 2A. So I think if the Edgehill defence can stand firm, and they've sort of only really conceded 1 touchdown a game, if they can hold this Derby offence off and sort of put 2 or 3 scores up, then I think that's where they're going to win this football match. So it's an intriguing one. It's an interesting one, and certainly one that Sunday afternoon I'll be flicking across to try and find the score from before the other ones, I think.
And of course, York are the only team left in the competition who aren't going to be a Tier 1 team next year, because obviously all the other 3 got promoted with their division champ status. But read into that what you will. Let's quickly then go on to the Southern Conference, where we see Oxford Brooks. We didn't see them in the quarterfinals because Aberystwyth didn't travel, unfortunately. So we have OBU versus Queen Mary. Queen Mary, who have kind of gone on a late season charge, haven't they? And they find themselves in this semi-final matchup against Oxford Brooks, I should probably say. And then we've got in the other semi-final Plymouth Blitz versus Sussex Saxons. And obviously it was Sussex who travelled to Kingston and beat, and probably caused a bit of an upset there by beating Kingston and booking themselves in the semi-final. But what's your reading of these semi-finals, Stuart, going into this weekend?
I think this is probably going to be the most interesting pair of fixtures, certainly across the entire week. I think if you sort of include Big Tuesday as well, I still prefer Touchdown Tuesday, so I'm going to stick with that. I think this pairs up the 2 most competitive teams, and I think if Queen Mary can keep that run that you were talking about going, and maybe take advantage of that momentum that OBU might have lost. Again, they've probably trained together, so they're still fresh. But I think if Queen Mary can sort of roll that momentum in, then I can see them nicking that game. And then Plymouth Sussex, again, it's one of those where we're like, which Plymouth turns up? Is it the Plymouth that played during the regular season and scrapped through a lot of the games, or is it the Plymouth that turned up and put 33 points on Greenwich? It's kind of like, Jekyll and Hyde type thing. If the Plymouth from the quarterfinals turns up, then I think they probably take it. I think Sussex did well to beat Kingston. It's a horrible place to go and try and play football on a pitch that's like sort of on an angle like this. And I think they did well. But yeah, I think I see Plymouth taking that one as well. Again, Sussex will probably go and prove me wrong.
And Isaac, what's your take on this? Because we've actually, in these semi-finals, we've actually only got 2 promoted teams in the semi-finals, because obviously Kingston is that other team that will be Tier 1 next year. So Quimble and Sussex are those Tier 2 next year teams that are battling out for the final in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Stuart, I'm going to disagree with you. I think Sussex are going to do it. I have no idea why. I think this. I've just got a gut feeling. All season long, you've seen that they can score. I think they've got the most points scored. I think they've got scored more points than two sides who have already promoted. So yeah, I think Sussex could easily do that just because their offense is that powerful. Yeah, we've seen Plymouth score a lot of points against Greenwich, but I think Sussex could just edge that one. And then Queen Mary, they're going to go in with that momentum, and momentum is possibly the most important thing in playoffs. If you stop starting all the time, not playing games, and not knowing when your next game's going to be, and having like a 3-week break, it don't help anybody. It like switches your mind off a little bit. I think Oxford BUCS have the quality to do a job over Quimble, but I don't know if they will be able to just because of that long break they've had.
Yeah, I doubt Coach Stitt will have Oxford BUCS switch off for 3 weeks. But I definitely take your point. I think Quimble are going to have to come in and beat and score against a side who've only conceded 12 points all season. But we saw that happen last week with obviously Brunel travelling to Bournemouth, and then obviously Plymouth don't fancy conceding too many good points themselves across the season as well. So I think these are 2 very intriguing matchups. As you say, what momentum can Queen Mary bring to that Oxford BUCS side that have been all but dominant, all very dominant throughout the season, and I'm sure they'll be chomping at the bit nonetheless to book themselves a place in the final and cap off the promotion with a win in the final, I'm sure. But no, fantastic insight there, guys, and thanks for your analysis for sure. We promised you that it'd be relatively short, and definitely will be this time. But wanted to give you our thoughts on what happened the previous weekend and what will be happening this weekend. But we will, I'm sure, get back together quite soon after BUCS Big Wednesday on Tuesday, which I am copywriting as Touchdown Tuesday, and we'll get back together to talk about what's happened there, because both these guys are hopefully going to be present and will be able to bring us first-hand interest on the fixtures for sure. A bit of operation notes, if you like. We were hoping to schedule a NFFL pod this week, but we had illness within the team, so Vic has been very unwell recently, so we didn't want to get together without Vic's valuable insight into the world of flag. So we'll definitely be making sure that that we'll come back to you as soon as possible with that. Stuart, you're telling me to bring up Armed Forces games. I'll let you with that, being our resident expert on all those things.
I'm a learning expert on these 2 things. So yeah, there's 2 fixtures this weekend. There's one tomorrow and one on Saturday for our armed forces. Tomorrow in Bournemouth, the Royal Navy take on the Air Force. And then on Saturday, the Army Jackals take on Essex Tridents in Oxford. I don't believe the streams of either games, but I'm pretty sure that both teams will be over their socials. They have been sort of last year, and we'll try and bring scores of those to you guys as and when we get them as well.
Brilliant. No, fantastic. It's great to see all these different formats going on. We've obviously now got the first weeks of the National Flag Football League happening this weekend. Then we build up into the adult contact and the youth as well, and it doesn't stop for us, does it? So delighted to roll from BUCS Big Wednesday. I will get that right one day, and roll straight into the adult contact and the National Flag League. So delighted with that. But we'll be back talking BUCS certainly after the finals that happen on Tuesday. We'll bring that back and give you our insight and our thoughts on that, and then we can round out a lovely season of BUCS with three champions there for sure, and wait for the playoffs and the Tier 2 final for sure. So, gents, thank you very much for joining us. For those that are listening and watching, thank you very much for joining us once again, and we'll catch you again next week. Thank you very much. Goodbye.